Davies of Brixton, and he reminds me of that old actuarial joke at the dinner of actuaries, where they're all complaining that everyone's living longer and it's getting worse. Now, my lords, I agree with this purpose clause, although I'm surprised it doesn't establish the balance between risk and reward, where pensions help people build secure futures by taking appropriate qualified risks. The pensions industry seems obsessed with risk minimisation, but without any form of risk, there can be no reward, and even cash is at risk from inflation. So the success of this bill, and why we need a purpose clause, should be grounded in how it makes it easier for people to take personal responsibility and to save for their futures, for themselves and their families, to make their savings secure, whilst permitting appropriate and manageable returns and providing risk capital to grow the economy. Inspiring people to save for their future is really important. And pensions are long-term savings plans. Long-term returns, dynamised through dividends, boosted by employer contributions in many cases, are the best way to set yourselves up for later life. But this government has materially weakened the incentives for people to do the right thing, limiting tax benefits, bringing them within the ambit of AHT, requiring excessive prudence and excessive de-risking as you approach retirement, even though you may still have 30 years to go. It's no wonder that rather than investing in their long-term future, youngsters are now being driven into crypto, currencies, private credit, all manner of unregulated assets, whether it be whiskey barrels, Star Wars characters, or Lego sets, tangible assets they can touch. And the point is that this government has changed people's behaviours, driving them from steady risk, lower risk pension assets into high risk speculative products of the Wild West, many of which could never provide an income. So what's the government's response to all this in this bill? Hundreds of pages of extra regulations, guidance and expense, all absurdly complicated, costing money, delay and adding risk, which in turn undermines confidence in the system. And it treats the closest thing we have to a sovereign wealth fund in the LGPS as a ministerial plaything. Over 160 pages, making pensions so complicated and opaque, it makes the point it's not really for me. I think it's a real problem, because giving more powers to Whitehall, Marsham Street and the cat's cradle of group-thinking regulators and emblematically preventing innovation with a default scheme that requires the regulator to approve a new entrant. The old boys network, keeping out a competitor. And it provides insurmountable hurdles to these new entrants, whilst doing nothing to stop the insanity that drives private schemes to go into liability-driven investments that forces trustees not to maximise returns and instead to anchor themselves in deficits. And an absurd regulatory mania that drives people into these absurdly leveraged products. And all of this leads to poorer outcomes in retirement, damages trust and confidence in a pension scheme that's already on shaky ground. Look, the economy runs on incentives, but this bill, the government is disincentivising individuals to save in pensions and investments. Not every provision in this bill is wrong, and there's plenty to be welcomed, but on so many fronts it misses the target. I congratulate my noble friend in attempting to establish a purpose clause to give a clarity and coherence, and yes, confidence to a population that is sceptical, that doing the right thing is for them.
The Lords,